Hi, everyone. Kathy Beltran with Sacred Dance with Trance. I'm super excited to have Julian Jenkins. He is a medium, teacher, healer, and co-creator of the UDEMY course that we just shared in the group with, along with Martin Kolkoff. And it's the definitive guide to Trance Psychic Mediumship. Julian is also founder of the online community of Light and Harmony Community online. We'll talk definitely about that as well. Everybody, welcome, Julian.
Hello, thank you for having me, Kathy. It's a great honor and pleasure.
Oh my God, thank you so much for doing this. And first, I want to get some of the links and talk about those links. So underneath the interview, I get so many messages after an interview is released. Underneath the interview, wherever it's released, all of Julian's links will be there. You can reach Julian at julianjenkinsmedium.com. The second one is lhcommunity.net. And you can go to the UDEMY website and look up Julian Jenkins, and he has many courses there, not just the trance ones. So we'll definitely talk about all the work that he does. But Julian, one of the things that I love to do this in the beginning, because I love to hear how people got involved in mediumship and how it all started for them. And then we'll get into the trance and the work that you're doing. How did you get involved? How did it happen? How did it all start for you?
Well, it's a good question. And I think sometimes my answer is sometimes very stereotypical of a lot of people, really. But my mediumship or my spiritual awakening, my spiritual journey, whatever vernacular you'd like to use, it started when I was a young boy. So I was 5 or 6 years of age, and I had a number of spiritual experiences. But the main spiritual experience for me was very much a recurring visitation of a man who used to come into my room, and he would gather me in his arms, and we would go astral traveling all over the world. And that man, he looked very much like the man off Uncle Ben's rice, on the packet of Uncle Ben's rice. And that's the only way I can describe him. My sister, when I told her the story, she used to call him Pokomoko. But I didn't have a name. I still haven't got a name. But that's how my spiritual awakening started, was by visitations of guides. Now, interestingly enough, that guide probably stayed with me for about 3 or 4 years, but I've never seen him since. But when I was 5, 6 years of age, my guide, who I class now as my brother, a guy called Ronnie, I call him Ronnie. He's an Ottoman Indian. His real name is Rotag. He's shown me everything about his tribe. He's told me who he is. He's shown me pictures of him. It's an incredible relationship. But that started when I was laying in bed one afternoon or one morning, and I woke up and I looked out the window, and there was this bold as brass American Indian walking down my pathway in my garden. He walked straight through my house, come up the stairs and come into my bedroom. Now, many people might have said, didn't that scare a 5 or 6 year old boy? But because I'd had visitation of Pokomoko for so many, many years, and I'll call him that because that's what my sister named him, I didn't feel afraid. And we had that relationship, and I used to see and be and work with spirit on a regular basis, to the point where if I laid in bed on my back, I would hear spirit, see spirit, and be with spirit. But if I laid on my side, then everything would stop and I could go to sleep. So, you know, from the age of 5 or 6, that's when my spiritual journey started. And I'm currently writing a book at the moment called From a Burden to a Blessing. And it talks about how, you know, as a young child growing up and then getting to the teenage years and then through the late teens and into the early 20s, how, you know, our awareness, our sensitivity, if you like, is so much more heightened. We haven't got a clue what's going on. And we think that could be mental health issues or anxiety issues or depression issues or any of these issues. And the reality of the situation is it's not. And my journey, I would have thought, would be quite reminiscent of many other people's journeys. In fact, when I was, 6 or 7, I was taken to hospital because I was having convulsions. And when they took me to the hospital, I had one of these skull caps put on my head, and they were measuring my brain activity. And they said that my brain activity was far too strong, and it was very, very, very active. too active for a child of my age, which was causing convulsions. So they actually gave me medicine to calm my brain waves and my brain activity. I can look back on that now and actually think that the reason why my activity in my mind and my brain and my soul, I believe, was because I was operating in two spheres. I was operating in the physical and I was operating in the spiritual. And although they gave me, it was called erythromycin, I can always remember the drugs because it rotted all my teeth because of the high sugar content. And I was taking those drugs to try and quell those experiences I was having. It sort of dampened my spiritual awareness slightly, but it was always there, and I was always having those relationships with my guides and spirit and everything else. And it's been with me ever since. So I'm 47 next month in March the 8th. So I've been with spirit for 41 years, and, you know, in different variations. And I assume that people will relate to the story, as in, you know, sometimes spirit is more prominent in our lives than others. We sort of meander from one side to the next. And I'm writing a book, and my oral skills are okay, but my written skills aren't so good. And I'm using somebody to help me edit it. And we've got sort of 3/4 of the way through the book. And I asked the question is, you know, you've seen my life story now, and you're writing my life story based on the information I've given you, and you're cleaning and tidying it. But what's showing to you? And the lady came back and said, you've always been with spirit. You always go off into this human, physical, commercial world, but spirit always bring you back. And your story is about your spiritual path deviating out into the real world and then being brought back to spirit. So that's my awakening and my enlightenment, if you like. And that's my story. And here I am today.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, first, I love the title of your book. I remember when you talked before about it, I was like, oh my God, that's such a great title. And earlier, before we started the interview, I told you I love to hear people's stories because members or the audience love to be able to relate. And right away, Julian, I'm going to tell you right now, I got the goosebumps because I'm like, wow, he sounds like me. I mean, I sound like him, like the things I'm feeling about, you know? And I love how you described it, how the woman described it to you about being with spirit and always going off and then coming back. And it's beautiful. And for you to not everybody has that growing up, being young and seeing spirit and not having that fear. And that is a beautiful thing. And there's people that I know that have had that fear. And so I love hearing your story. I love how it all started for you. I know that we talked earlier about the work that you're doing. I want to go back to that first before we start going into more. You told me about a community that you just started pretty much online. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, again, I think it goes back to, you know, one of the things, again, and thank you for speaking so highly of the title. I wish I could take credit for it, but I can't, because
it's beautiful.
it was given to me by my guide, Ronnie. So I can't take credit for it. But what I would say is that as a child growing up, children don't have any fear, and we're actually taught fear. And as we grow up, we then gain that fear through some experiences, but in the main, we're taught a lot of our lessons via that. And one of the reasons why Burden to a Blessing is very an apt title is because when we start this spiritual journey, and I call ourselves sensitive. So a lot of people who I work with and talk to and are around are like-minded people because we naturally gravitate to each other. But we're sensitives. What does that mean? Well, our awareness, our consciousness, our empathy, our compassion, all of these things are a lot more heightened than anybody else's. And we don't understand that. We don't understand why, you know, we cry at films and we do all these different things more than anybody else. And, you know, I'll say to somebody, how are you feeling? And they'll go look at me, well, I'm okay. Why are you saying that for? And the reason is that, you know, the sensitives, we'll keep using that word and it can call it whatever you want, is that I can feel the energy not being right when it's at 2. He can't feel it until it's at 10. because his sensitivity to emotion and energy is a lot less than mine. So I pick up all of these things. And as a child growing up, it's like, oh my God, this is a burden, because I'm feeling everyone's pain before they feel the pain. I'm picking up on all these energies. I don't always fit in properly. And people look at me weird because I'm asking questions that they're saying, well, why do you keep asking that question? Why are you seeing it? How are you seeing this that I don't see it? And all of those things really are a burden. And I liken it quite a bit to the very first film with Christopher Reeve of Superman. And when he lands on the earth, and he's in this big ball of fire, and his what eventually become his foster mum and dad, his stepmom and dad, but in essence his real mum and dad. And he comes up, and as a young boy, you know, he stares at things and burns it, and he grabs hold of something and crushes it, and he doesn't understand his powers, and he hates his powers because as a child they're no use to him. And he really struggles with it. And in the end, it becomes this, Superman is this big burden of all the powers that he's got. And I'm not saying I'm Superman, but what I am saying is that he doesn't understand it because he's so young. And it was the same for me in many ways. I didn't understand it because I was so young. And that you know, Superman ended up being Superman because he found out later on he had these powers to do good in the world. And then when he was Superman, it was a blessing. So it went from the burden to the blessing. And in many ways, my story is from the age of 5 or 6, I had nowhere to go. We had no resources. People didn't listen to me. Oh, he's just got an imaginary friend. And as I grew older, sport was a big part of my life. So I could concentrate and focus on sport. But even still, people didn't understand me. I was 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 years of age. I then found, you know, a little bit about spiritual. There was no internet. There was none of this. There was none. And it was a nightmare. It was a really nightmare. And I could have been in a room of 200 people, but felt lonely because of my journey, my story, my, you know, my awareness, my whatever terminology we want to use. So the reason why I created, coming back to the question of LH community, Light and Harmony community, is I want to provide a resource. I want to provide a place where people who feel the same as I feel, people who have been through a similar journey to that I've been through, can actually call somewhere home. And that home is somewhere where people can go and talk openly amongst like-minded people. We can share experiences, we can share content, we can share help, we can share all of these things, we can engage with each other, we can really help each other understand what's going on, and not have a burden for 5 to 20, 15 years with a burden. We can start unpacking that burden now and get people to understand that their awakening happens at different phases. You know, this is a journey, not a destination. We never get there. We just keep developing. And I want people to be able to come into a safe, secure environment where they can truly be themselves, where they can truly understand what's going on, provide them with my experiences, my guidance, my spiritual philosophy, all of these different aspects in a community environment which cares, so that they don't have to go through many, many years of pain and suffering and burdens that I went through because I didn't have a clue what was going on. And I didn't understand the relationship with spirit. And I wasn't listening to the subtleties, the subtle energies, I wasn't doing meditation. I didn't have a clue what was going on. And I want to help people shorten that span of, oh my God, what's happening, to, oh, I now understand. And now I understand, I can relate to the fact that people don't get me. And I understand that, and that's fine. But now I understand why they don't get me, rather than, you know, penalizing myself for not being normal or being strange or being weird or, you know, whatever phrase was thrown at us. So I've gone around probably the houses, but I think it's really important to understand that I'm very passionate about this because I've experienced it, and I don't want people to experience the level of you know, of a burden that was put upon me. And now I know it's a blessing, but at that time I didn't. And the community has been created, you know, for live spiritual events, live. We've got a spiritual circle this evening. We do lots of video content. We've got great forums. You can create your own blogs. You can have private messaging. There's chat rooms. You know, there's so much. There's articles. There's so much going on. There's mentorship programs. There's the courses that are on there as well. We do a featured course every week. So all of these things are, and it costs £20 a month, which is, you know, is less than a gym membership, is less than a, you know, is less than, you know, 2 packets of cigarettes over here in the UK. So, you know, it's very affordable. And for me, I hope people can join in and get on it, because, you know, already it's been running now for nearly a month, and, you know, we have over 100 members, and you know, the camaraderie, the support, the love, is mind blowing, and I'm truly humbled by that.
Well, I think it's beautiful because, I mean, I know I can relate to your experience growing up. And then when you say there was no internet, if you didn't have that support or people around you that knew what was happening or going on in your life, but for you to experience that and then build this community online, I mean, it's beautiful, you know, and everybody would want to belong, whatever groups there are, even if it's Facebook group, and a community that you're not afraid to say your truth or, you know, what you're experiencing. In any Facebook group too, you still have to, for us, we never know. We always have to monitor it, because we don't want somebody to genuinely ask such a question or something that's happening with them, and we don't want anybody to be mocked or anything like that, because we want it to be a safe area, you know. But for a community like yours, where you're offering courses, you're offering, you know, it's not just you to be there and just read everything. There's interaction. So I think it's a beautiful thing that you've done this, you know.
Yeah, I think for me, you know, there's 3 values that I think underpin it, which is engage, inspire, and empower. And those 3 words, I think, really sum up the community. We engage together, we inspire ourselves through our stories, and then we empower people by getting them to understand and give them confidence to be able to go and do what they do. My mantra very much, because there's a great book from Simon Sinek which says start everything with why. We know what we do and how we do it, but why do we do it? And the reason why I do it is because I want to help people help themselves live a happy spiritual life with clarity and purpose. And those things I never had. So for me, that my why is to do that. I want to help people help themselves, because I don't want, I'm not here to teach to have hundreds of little mini Julians running around. I realize that everybody's spiritual journey is very different. I always say it's like a thumbprint. We all have one, but they're intrinsically different. And that's how I see it. So what I want to be able to do is help people help themselves live a spiritual life, happy spiritual life with clarity and purpose. And anything that I do, I always sort of say to myself, well, have I helped someone to help themselves live that life with clarity and purpose? And if I don't, then why am I doing it? Because, you know, for me, that is my main driver through the book that I'm writing, Burden to a Blessing, through the courses that I offer on Udemy, through the Facebook group, the Udemy Facebook group that I work on, which we've got like 1,300 members, you know, to the LH community site that we've just created. It is all about helping people to help themselves, because, you know yourself, sometimes people position themselves as gurus or as these, you know, higher salespeople who know every, you know. For me, spirit is so beautiful. And because I started at a very young age, I know that there is only love in spirit. So I get some people, you know, when I make a comment and they say, oh yeah, but about evil spirits and about evil this and it, I'm like, you're talking through your gluteus maximus, okay? Because there is only love. And when you go to the spirit world, there is love. We know that, you know, the only thing that's evil potentially are the people here on earth. And those people create evil or terrible energies that are residual that us sensitives can pick up on. There is no evil spirits. You're not going to go to hell. You know, a lot of the things that without jumping on my soapbox too quickly, you know, I believe that is a conformist belief, a dogma that's been put in place by religion, because religion is scared of spirituality. And the reason why it's scared of spirituality is power with, and religion is power on. And there's a very big difference to that. And I'm not, you know, I believe in God. I believe in Jesus Christ. I don't need to know if I don't do something right, I'm going to go to hell, or when he comes down here, I'm not going to be taken with him. What a load of rubbish. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, Jesus knows my beliefs. He knows that I'm a good guy. I try to be I try to be empathetic. I try to be an empath. I try to show compassion. I try to show patience. I'm a human, so sometimes I don't get that right. If somebody cuts me up in the car, I want to beat my own and, you know, maybe gesture to them that it would be, you know, wouldn't be very nice. But in the main, I'm trying to live a spiritual life. And you know, I believe that spirituality gives you that, whereas religion, you know, in many ways, it puts you in that straitjacket. It is all about dogma and everything else. So, you know, in a community like LH Community, you know, Light and Harmony Community, is an opportunity for people to be themselves and not fear trolls or fear this, you know. And even, you know, Facebook pages are great, but we still don't understand exactly when we post something how many people see it. We're not in control of it, you know. And Facebook is being built by people, and now they sell it back to you. So for you to be able to, somebody to see all your posts, you've got to have an advert.
Yes.
So you've created a data set of people who enjoy mediumship through your groups. If you want to speak to them, you've got to pay for it. It's a very clever, cunning way of doing things. But ultimately, what I want to be is in charge of our own destiny. And that's why, although I still have a Facebook group, I wanted to create a spiritual community that we're in charge of, and not a huge conglomerate based in Palo Santo in California.
Well, you know what? I really loved how you said, help people help themselves. When my son was like 5 years old, I remember him coming home from school one day and just asking him how your day was. And he started talking about math and about some little girl. And I'm like, did you help her? You know, were you helping her? Because she didn't understand. He goes, yes, but Mom, I can only help her so much. She has to help herself. And this coming from a 5-year-old. And from that day forward, that's always been my thing. And so that's what I'm saying. I'm talking to you, Julian, and there's so many times I'm going, yep, I get that. Oh my God, that. I love that. And one of the things that's happening with me in the interviews right now is there was a time last year where I just had a lot going on. So I had to step away. I did maybe a few interviews last year, big life changes. And then I started getting that call again. And yes, I have the group. And yes, you know, I feel like I'm supposed to do this, but the change that's coming in, and I get this from Spirit, is they also want to talk about other things. They want to talk about the spiritual side. They want to talk about empowering yourself, just every aspect, not just the trance. They want to include other things in these interviews now. And so I used to be strict on, okay, let me just go through all the questions. And then I decided I didn't want to do that anymore. And I felt like that was from Spirit. They want to talk about helping members, helping the audience find teachers. Focus on that. Focus on, and I'm getting the goosebumps. They want to focus on each, you know, person coming in that I'm interviewing, and to get like that essence of who they are. And there's going to be so many people that can relate to you, and they're going to want to learn from you. They're going to want to know, you know, what is Julian offering? And, you know, I think each medium, and anybody in general, really, if you look at it, but it's not just mediumship. It's like you have to keep growing, and like you said earlier, you're having a human experience. You're here, and there's all these different things, but for some reason, the spirit world wants me to touch on that as well. So what you'll notice is I'm not asking all the 20 million questions I used to do. But in the end, somehow you'll get his journey and how he was led to, you know, all these learning things, and now to the trance. So
I think the big thing for me is, and it's something that I've truly learned over the last 2 to 3 years. When my background is I was involved in sport, in soccer for many years. It was a very alpha male environment. So I sat in the spiritual closet until about 3 years ago, when I came out and said, this is what I do and this is how I do it, and it was time for me to do it. And you know, for me, that was a big weight off my mind. But what I find is, and I love the fact that you say that, is we talk a lot about spirituality and spiritualism, and I think the ality and the ism, there's two different sides to it. The spirituality is the connection with yourself, the connection with nature, the connection with people around you, you know, things like mindfulness and yoga and being in the moment and being present and all of these things. Then you've got the ism, which is when you're talking and working with spirit in itself. And I believe that the two need to come together and they need to dovetail. But what happens is when you go on a course or you go to a meeting or a circle or whatever the scenario is, you only deal with the ism. And the ism can take you so far. And then what you get is you get a lot of people who are saying, well, I don't understand the inconsistency. Sometimes I sit and I get great messages. And other times I sit and I get nothing at all. Why is that? And the reason is because the two parts aren't together. So you need to be whole. You need to have, it's like, you know, my analogy in this is this. When you go to somebody for a mediumship course, it's a golf analogy. The mediumship course teaches you how to putt the ball when you're on the green into the hole. Okay. The problem with that is it's great, but how do I get the ball on the green? I need to tee off. I need to put it on a little thing. I need to find which club I'm going to use. And what happens if I go in the bunker? Or what happens if I go over there into the trees? And what ball do I use? And how do I swing? What's my standing? How's my, you know, there's so many different questions that get you to the green for you to be able to putt the ball. It's like saying to somebody, I'm not interested in doing the jigsaw until I put the final piece in. And that's rubbish. You need to put your corners in. You need to put your straight lines in. You need to build a jigsaw out based on a number of factors. And mediumship and trance mediumship, all of this ism, spiritualism, which I call it, has to be underpinned and have a foundation of spirituality. How can you connect with spirit when you're not connected with yourself? Yeah. And so many people I see who are healers who intrinsically need healing themselves. And they believe that the healing mask that they put on and the healing cape that they put on actually shrouds them in this healing to heal themselves. And yes, there is an element of that. But the best healers are the ones that are healed themselves. The best mediums are the ones that are connected with themselves, because ultimately you, as my human body, my school uniform, as I call it, is holding up my spiritual mind, my spiritual soul. I have all of my chakras. I have all of these things going on, and I am being covered with my human experience. I am being covered with my human body that for many years I abused, drinking, eating, having, you know, not looking after myself in a way that I should be looking after myself. And I've made some fundamental changes in that over the last 12 months. And really looking at this is our body. This is what we have been given to come to this, to have a human experience, but ultimately to deliver our spiritual purpose and our spiritual goal, our soul's purpose and our soul's goal. And you have to, I believe, you have to be connected to yourself. You have to deal with your shadow elements. You have to deal with your repressed emotions, your traumas, your shadows, whatever it is, for you to be a true, real shining light. That's not to say you can't do mediumship. That's not to say you can't do trance. That's not to say you can't do healing. But I'm telling you now, if you learn to connect with yourself and live a more spiritual life through mindfulness, through meditation, through being in the moment, for being present, for being more patient, for being more empathetic, understanding when you connect into your body, I know myself. Yeah. Then I can know spirit. Because unless I do that, it's going to be hit and miss. Because my vibration, my inner self, my inner soul, my inner light is not shining as bright as it should be. And when we can do that, when we can really work on ourselves, and you know, there's a great guy called Ken Wilber. You may have heard of him. He talks about three things, and it's fantastic. And I'm not going to take credit for it. I wish I could. He talks about waking up. He talks about cleaning up. And he talks about growing up. And you see, when people have a spiritual awakening, there's this, maybe it is the case, but in the main, a false misconception that I'm going to be laying in bed, I'm going to hear a clap of thunder and lightning, there's going to be angels everywhere, and Jesus Christ is stood at the end of my bed. And he's going to go, Julian, you are the chosen one. You from this day forward will deliver the most amazing. It doesn't happen. Generally, it's an experience that's happened, whether someone's passing, whether you've had a near-death experience, a crash or something like that. It just, whoa, hang on a minute, I'm starting to feel things a bit differently here. That's an awakening. And you see a little bit of spiritual light, and I believe that's enlightenment. So when we create and build this light, it becomes enlightenment. But our spiritual awakening is all of a sudden, wow, I didn't realize. And the problem with that is sometimes when we have, lots of us have traumas from our past, lots of us have shadow issues and repressed emotions through, a lot of it's from our childhood or from people we've missing or we've lost or accidents or whatever the scenario is. And when we become this awakened soul, we go, ooh, what's that? Oh, I feel like a really funny sensation. I feel this emotion coming over me about my dad. Why am I thinking about my dad? Yeah. Why am I thinking about, my dad died 10 years ago. Why am I feeling really, I feel really horrible, grief, and I feel quite depressed. In fact, I'm feeling quite anxious. Because when you're awakened and you start listening to yourself, it's the worst thing in the world for somebody who's got lots of, so when you think about a spiritual awakening as a really positive experience, it can be quite a negative one. Because all of a sudden we can connect into the repressed energies and emotions and traumas that we've stored in our auric field for the last 40 years. That's why when we wake up, we need to start to clean up. We need to try to deal with these. We need to deal with these emotions. We need to let them up. We need to own them. We need to accept them. Because just because we've pushed them away doesn't mean they've gone away. And some of these things we bury, and we know what happens if we bury a seed. Yes. It grows. And if this emotion and the repressed thing, they grow, they cause you traumas, they cause you other things. So when you're trying to connect with spirit, there's always a part of you that's not always there. And if you can get to that point of, you're never going to be pure because you're having this human experience. But if we can work on ourselves and work on mindfulness to be able to focus on our breath and anchor our breath, to be able to create a space that allows spirit to fill, that is non-judgmental, the world opens up. It completely changes. I talk about, you can have the best, look, I've got, I bought this for the camera. Okay. It's an iPhone 11. All right. It's cost me far too much money. It's perceived as the best iPhone, the best phone on the market. If I can't get a signal, or if I've got no Wi-Fi, that phone don't work. Best phone in the world, don't work. And I believe that your body and you are that phone, but the reality is your emotions and your energy is the signal. And if I have no cell signal, if I have no phone signal, I can't phone anyone. I might have to, we all do it, don't we? We hold it up in the air up here and go, oh, I've got hello, John, can you hear me now? Oh my God, I have to move it over here. Claire. And sometimes we get a hit. Sometimes we get a call. That's what happens with mediumship. Sometimes we do get a call. Sometimes we do inadvertently link into a signal. But the reality is the consistency and the quality, I believe, through even trance mediumship, any form of mediumship, whether it's connecting with spirit in any modality, physical, trance, mental, whatever you want to call it, you have to have connection with yourself. And that's why I'm so passionate about the ality, spirituality, which I believe is a fundamental pillar of the ism, the spiritualism. And you can tell I'm quite passionate about it because I believe that a lot of people are sold down the river when they purchase a course, and all they're told is how to put a ball into the hole. And the reality is they don't even know how to swing a golf club. And that for me is where I am. And I use it in layman's terms. There's probably a lot of other analogies that I can use. But the reality is, if we're not connected with ourselves, if we haven't healed ourselves, how can we connect and how can we heal others? I don't know.
Well, I will tell you, I think I'm done now because as I'm sitting here, I'm like, when you think about you have a tribe. There's somebody that you talk to and instantly you're like, whoa, the way you're thinking, the way you feel about things, to me, that's been my life as far as, and I think maybe that's why Spirit's wanting me to talk more about this stuff, is when you said, healer, heal thyself, when we talked about that. I've said that so many times. You see this with, I mean, obviously I'm not on a judgmental box here, but to me, the biggest thing and the most important thing is healing your issues, healing those things. I get so surprised when I see people that have been doing mediumship for 30 years, and they get so surprised that, you know, their life is just going to hell, or, you know, they're always angry. And I'm like, I don't understand. And then they finally get led to a point, which thank goodness that happens, where they start looking at themselves. And, but I believe that we're here to do that. And if we're going to be mediums or trans mediums or healers, that we definitely need to do the work of just, you know, and it's going to be our whole lives that we do it. It's not, we fix this one issue and we're good and we're just perfect. But it's not that way. It's going to be our whole lives. And if you look at that and you take little steps and heal yourself, it will impact your mediumship. It really will. I totally believe that. And so I'm so glad that you're bringing this stuff up, because like I said, I think Spirit wants this out more.
Absolutely, 110%. And that is, I believe, one of my vocations, one of my callings. You see, a lot of people want to land on top of the mountain. They don't want to climb it. And the problem is, if you land on top of the mountain, you never appreciate the view as much as you do if you had to climb it, right? And I think that's there's a lot in it there for me. And I think that, you know, people say to me, and again, I'm not saying it for any other reason, but Julian, how come you're a really good medium? And people forget, I started when I was 5. This is 41 years in the making. 41 years of consistently, okay, in and out, more than others, sometimes less, sometimes more, but sitting in a spiritual meditation and being with my guides, being with my spiritual team, being with, you know, and understanding the fundamental core principles of exactly what this is. And then trying to say, well, actually, yeah, I do understand it. And, you know, I'll give you an example. And I'm not here to downcry anybody, because, you know, it really, I can only tell you what I believe through my beliefs. And my beliefs are given to me through my experiences and my relationship with Spirit. And I've been going to circle for many, many years. And you sit in a, I don't know if you've been in a circle, Kathy, but you sit in a circle and you all sit around in a circle, and somebody will lead it. And they will say, we're going to do a 30-minute meditation. And when we come back, I would like you to give any messages or any readings or anything for anybody who's in the room. And I'm new to it, for argument's sake. I'm thinking, well, how am I going to do that? I've never done this before. What? So all of a sudden, I put these connection blocks, these intentional blocks in front of me. And I go into a meditation. Then I sit in the meditation, and I'm thinking, am I doing this right? Where am I going? Okay, right, okay. And I get lucky anyway, and I go into a meditation and I see things, and then I come back and somebody says, so what did you have? And it's like somebody's given 5 messages before me around the circle. I'm thinking, well, I didn't have anything. So where do I go with that? I'm not coming here again. And I don't want to go there again, because it's now, think of this logically, and I think there needs to be a fundamental change in circle. Is this: I believe there are 3 types of meditation. I believe that it is a mindfulness meditation, where you need to learn and cultivate mindfulness, being able to focus and anchor on your breath. See, meditation is a single point of focus with no judgmental thoughts. People think meditation is about calming your mind and clearing your mind and not having any thoughts. Unless you are a yogi or the Dalai Lama or an expert in I don't know, transcendental meditation, you're always going to have something come up rising. So I'm going to go into a meditation now, and I'm going to think, I hope the dog don't bark. It's a natural thing that comes into my mind. But what I need to do is I need to see that thought. I need to breathe it in. I need to accept it and acknowledge it. And I need to let it go. Then I come back to my breath. So all the time I'm having these thoughts. The thoughts are not the problem. I come in, I accept them, I acknowledge them, I let them go. I come back to my breath. Next thing could be 5 minutes. I can accept them. Funny enough, my dog's just started barking. Okay? You will hear him now any minute coming down the stairs. He must have hit me. My point is, mindfulness meditation allows you connection with yourself. Spiritual meditation, with the meditation that you do in circle, I believe is for yourself. You shouldn't be told when you go into that meditation that if you've got a message for somebody, come back, bring it back. No, I don't want you to have a message for somebody. I want you to have 30 minutes of sitting in a guided meditation, or whatever the scenario is, to be sitting in that meditation for you to sit there and get to understand your surroundings, get to understand the people who come in, get to understand the spirit guides, get to understand some philosophy, get to be, because you see, the majority of times we work with our guides or we work with spirit, it's transactional. It's a transaction. I've got somebody's going to come in now, and then I'm going to do a reading. So, Ronnie, I've got a lady coming in now. Please, can you give me some information about this lady, and can you bring a loved one through? Then she goes. Then 20 minutes later, hi, Ronnie, I've got another reading coming in. Please, can you bring somebody through? And it's a transaction. When are you spending quality time? When you're having a spiritual cup of tea or a spiritual cup of coffee with these people? I tell you when you're having it when you have your 30 minutes spiritual meditation. And just be with them and ask them questions. Because people say to me, oh, Julian, I did your meditation. Fantastic meditation. It was amazing. I saw a green frog with a pink cap that was talking to a camel who had a blue eye. What does that mean? And I say, I'll tell you what it meant. It meant you saw a camel and a frog. And the next time you go into that meditation, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to be absolutely lucid within it. I want you to be in that meditation and experience the meditation, but I want you to be part of the meditation. So when you see that frog, you say, hello, why are you here? See what the frog says. It might say something, may say nothing. Hello, camel, why are you wearing a blue hat? Ask the question. There's too many gurus who believe they know answers to everything, and they'll sit there for an hour and they'll try and decipher somebody else's meditation. Why? It's somebody else's meditation. And you have to teach them to help themselves, to actually not be lazy and come back and expect me to answer all their questions in their meditation. I'll tell you what you're going to do. When you're in the meditation, you're going to ask the questions for yourself, and you're going to build that relationship, and you're going to have those conversations, and you're going to work with your spiritual team for you to be able to do it. And the third meditation is a meditation to connect with spirit for you to be able to do readings for other people, for you to be able to call upon somebody's loved one to come in, for you to be able to work with your spiritual guides to give healing, or to do philosophy, or to do trance, or to do whatever you want to do. But the first two, 75% of this, or 66%, whatever it is, my maths aren't great, is to understand it's there for you. It's there for your development. You have to remember this is a joint venture. This isn't Julian Jenkins being a medium going on his own pathway. This is Julian Jenkins who has a spiritual team that has to help me. So when I understood that I was doing a reading and I was really panicking, what happens if someone doesn't come through? I'm doing a rostrum. What happens if I don't get any messages? Well, I go, whoa, hang on a minute. I'm here giving my time, my effort, my energy, and my commitment. You guys have got to do the same. And how do we do that? We do that through cultivating meditation. And if I was being honest again, and I had to start this all over again, trance mediumship would be the first strand I teach people, purely because of the level of meditation and the level of connection. I believe everything is that much, not easier, but that much simpler, whatever word I want to use, if you have mastered the ability to use trance mediumship in an environment that is conducive to working with spirit. And again, I've probably gone off on about 15 different subjects.
No, it's perfect, because it's talking about getting to know you, even if you're sitting for trance, getting to know you, sitting there, getting to know the spirit team that comes in, and laying that foundation. Because you don't want, there's a lot of people that expect they're going to sit for 1 or 2 times, and then all of a sudden they're going to start speaking, and they might have an experience, or, you know, I don't think it happens all the time, but to lay that foundation to like you said, it's getting to know you, where that space, and then getting to know them, and building that trust and understanding and learning from them.
Yeah, and building that relationship, because ultimately, you know, if I went next door and knocked their door now and said, can I have a cup of milk? And I went back and made myself a cup of tea, and then, you know, 2 hours later, I went and knocked their door again and said, can I have a cup of milk? And then I did that 5 or 6 times. The 7th or 8th time I've knocked the door, the person who could be the most empathetic and patient person in the world says, Julian, do me a favor. All right. You've knocked my door 8 times now. any chance tonight, you can go to the shop and buy yourself a pint of milk. And that, I believe that's the same fundamental principle with spirit. If every time you go to spirit because you want something, then they're going to get as annoyed as if your next door neighbor, because, you know, there's this world and that world, and there's fundamentally not very much different, apart from this is all love, and this has a cacophony of lots of different things. What I'm saying is you need to go into meditation outside of trance to be able to sit in a guided meditation for 20 minutes, whatever it is, and say, I'm here now, guys. Let's have a chat. Yeah. Talk to me what you want from me. Let me see what I can do for you. How can I help you? How can I serve you? Because I believe we serve, we develop, and we heal. We serve spirit, we develop ourselves, and we heal others. Mm-hmm. And the greatest gift of all of this is when we understand that we get out the way, or even when we're healing and we're serving, because that's the best way we can serve this. We don't put any of our thoughts, any of our judgments, anything on that. We work with spirit directly. Now, again, there's a caveat to that. I hate the word when people say we're a channel. I hate the people when we use the word we're a conduit. We're not. We're a spiritual entity. We're a soul having a human experience. But when we're doing things like trance mediumship or mediumship, I want us to experience it. I want us to be part of it. I want us to feel it. I want us to be, you know, fundamentally. What I don't want us to do is I don't want us to get, for our human conscious mind to get involved in it, because it'll ask too many questions and it'll try and get us out of it, because our mind is fight or flight. It's there to keep us alive. It makes our chest go in and out, our heart pump. You know, if I had to remember to breathe all the time, I'd be dead by now. So I'm really appreciative of the work it does. But I'm also, it can be very detrimental to our spiritual side, because it's not here for that. It doesn't understand it and it doesn't like it. So it tries to put up these barriers, these fears, this doubt, this confidence, all of these things that you, when you speak to somebody and say, like, okay, tell me what your major spiritual pain points are. People talk about trust. They talk about self-doubt. They talk about all of these things. They're human manifestations of your mind trying to put you off doing what they're doing, because it doesn't suit you to exist. Your existence is fight or flight. Don't die today, eat and try and, you know, and that's what your mind's there to do. It's not there to do all of the stuff that we want it to do and where we want it to be. And that's why we've got to get out the way of ourselves, create that spiritual space, that mind space, that healing space, that trance space, whatever physical space, whatever it is, for us to allow spirit to come into an environment that's conducive for them to get your different levels of, you know, your consciousness moving down through beta, alpha, and theta, get into that theta state for trance and be able to deliver those messages without dropping into delta and falling asleep, or your mind bringing you back into alpha and beta because it wants to take you out. You need to then be able to have that control to be able to stay in the theta state for your trance mediumship. So, you know, and again, I think that ultimately everyone's trance, everyone's mediumship, everyone's spiritual connection will hugely amplify if they're connected to themselves and have done the shadow work and have done the groundwork. Like, I can look at you, Kathy, and I can absolutely see your aura and your spiritual energy. And there is somebody there who on the whole, is very connected. And I don't mean just to spirit, I mean to yourself. I can see that there's that level of passion for yourself, the love for yourself. You know, my saying is be love and give love. So we have to love ourselves, and that's not, you know, okay, my wife is laughing today. I bought some moisturizer, and the only reason I bought moisturizer is because I go to the gym and I go in a steam room, so I want to make sure. But it is about being loved. It's about loving yourselves. It's about taking care of yourself. It's about, you know, dealing with your shadow elements, and then you can give love. You know, the love that you give when your love for yourself is so strong. You know, somebody says you can't love somebody else until you love yourself. I think there's layers of that. I don't think that is as black and white and as fake on play as the sentence means. But in the main, there's an essence of that, which I truly believe is important for everything that we do. So again, and I know we're talking about trance, but I think what we're talking about here will fundamentally benefit the ability to deliver a really strong trance philosophy message session. I don't like the word deeper. I like the word stronger in trance. I believe if we go too deep, we fall asleep. So we want to be in that beautiful theta state and a really strong relationship and connection with spirit and with our guides and with the information that comes in. But there is so much groundwork that needs to take place if we're going to raise the quality of the mediumship, if we're going to raise the quality of the evidence. You know, as I said, my mantra is be love and give love, but there's a third part to that, and that's provide evidence of eternal love through mediumship. And that, I believe, is where it is. So although we're talking about lots of other things, I believe that they are all core pillars that will enable your trance mediumship, your mental mediumship, or your physical mediumship, or whatever you want to do, to a way into a place where it is more consistent, it is more evidential, it is special. And I believe that it is our responsibility as this generation of mediumship or generation of spiritual people to move away from what I call clairvagueness. And actually move into the reality of what it is. You know, I went to Arthur Findlay 3 years ago, and I'll cut this quickly, but I went to Arthur Findlay 3 years ago. And when I came back, I was like, I know what I'm going to do. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to wake up in the morning and my spirit guides are going to tell me, this is it now, Julian, you've come out of the spiritual closet. We know exactly what you want to do. And they didn't. And I went to work on the Sunday and I thought, I'm going to go to church tonight. I went to church and I sat down, and a lady got up on the rostrum and gave some of the worst philosophy I've ever heard in my life. She then said, right, I'm going to do mediumship. She says, I have a woman with me. Does anyone understand the sound of music? And I thought to myself, how can you give that as evidence? How can you actually think that's evidence? There's 50% chance it's a man or woman, and everybody in the room could understand the sound of music without a shadow of doubt. We've all got something. If that lady, now either she's not connected or she's lazy, because what should have happened should have been, I've got a lady with me. She's talking to me about the sound of music. And what she's talking to me about the sound of music is, you used to go over a house on a Sunday night, sit on a lap, and you'd sit both there, and the two of you would sing a Edelweiss with a big bowl of vegetable soup. Does anyone understand that? Now you've just, because the problem is with a lot of mediums is they want everyone to put their hands up. The reality is you only want one person to put their hands up. Because if one person puts their hand up, you've done your job properly, because you've got 3 or 4 pieces of unequivocal evidence that intrinsically link them to that person. Then you know you're in the right place. Or you might go to someone and say, I'm working with you because I've got your dad with you. And, you know, and I could tell you, you know, many stories of my mediumship and how it's worked and how it does everything else. But the reason why I tell that story is it's our job not to be a woman with the sound of music. It's our job to be move away from clairvagueness and move into clairvoyance and clairsentience and clairaudience and, you know, all of these things, because that's where it really is, the real clairs. Not that, you know, and it's either playing safe, it's not connected, or it's rubbish, is the honest answer. And that level of mediumship is going to be detrimental to our tribe, our organization, or whatever. Don't get me wrong, we always get it wrong. You know, I remember someone saying to me once, your sitter, the person you're reading for, they always remember the yeses and you always remember the no's. And it's as simple as that in essence. You know, you might give a brilliant reading or whatever, and it's yes, oh, amazing, tears, that works. Then right at the end you say something and you go, no. They leave the room and you go, oh, I wonder where that was. Why did I get that? You forget the 30 minutes of pure spiritual bliss that you've given and inspired and empowered and engaged with this person. You just focus on because again, your mind is going, see, I told you this isn't right. You shouldn't be doing this. Come on, you must have more doubt and fear in your own ability. You know, that's what we do. We're human. And for me, again, part and parcel of what I'm trying to do and achieve is to get people to try it, at least, is to get people to be able to stand up and say, with their hand on their heart, that I live a spiritual life. I try to connect with spirit in the best way I can. And the evidence that I give is the best evidence I can give. And I'm not being lazy, and I'm not doing that. And I'm not playing you know, the safeguard and, you know, all of these things, and really inspire people to understand, be love, give love, but also to provide that evidence of eternal love. And that for me is, again, another one of my key drivers as to why I've given up the commercial world and I've gone full time in the spiritual.
Wow. I love that. And I've never heard of clairvoyance. I mean, just I love it. I love that. And totally agree with you. I want to talk about, Julian, about your trance and how you got led to trance, but also after that, I want to talk about the course on UDEMY that you and Martin co-created together.
Yeah.
And what led you to be interested into trance?
You see, for me, I'm a believer that in terms of spirituality, that we need to touch everything. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we need to try trance. We need to try physical. We need to do mediumship. We need to do healing. We need to do spiritual healing. We need to do healing through trance. We need to do, you know, there's so many, you know, remote viewing, psychic work, you know, energy tapping, you know, ESP, whatever it is. I think we need to touch it all. And the reason we need to touch it all is to understand it, you know, working with pendulums, crystals, whatever the scenario is, the moon, and start to understand where our passion is and where our skill set is. You know, there will be people who work very well with crystals. There are people who don't get them. There'll be people who work very well with pendulums. There'll be people who don't get them. And that's fine, because your spiritual intelligence will lead you to some way. There'll be some guys who are great at baseball and rubbish at basketball, that, you know, and that's just the way it is. And there'll be great people who are great at maths but terrible at geography, because their intelligence, their human, spiritual, or whatever, cognitive, emotive intelligence is that way inclined. And what I'd like to do is I try to touch everything and see where I went with it. And trance and physical mediumship is, for me, and in particular trance, is an area that I'm really, really interested in. And the reason why I'm really, really interested in is because of the level of connection with spirit, but also it takes away the clairvagueness, because, you know, if you're doing an evidential trance demonstration and you have somebody's mother who's come through and is talking to you, or talking through you, or talking to whoever it is, you know, it's got to be accurate. Because your grandmother's not going to, or your mother, whoever, is not going to forget your name. They're not going to forget where. And it's that, it really is, it should, a real evidence-based trance reading or demonstration should really put the can on it. And everyone go, wow, that was just incredible. That was definitely a mum. Did you hear what she said? She said her name and she told her date of birth, and she actually said she'd give her a phone number. Whatever the scenario is, I'm probably going too far one way, but it gives you that level of confidence of evidence, and the confidence that that's actually taking place in the same manner of respect as a physical, or you're trying to materialize spirit. And there's so many great stories, you know, of some of the people in the past, you know, who have done it, you know, which is truly amazing. So trance is a big thing for me, and it's getting bigger because I believe it is a much stronger strand of mediumship than normal mental mediumship. And that's the way I want to go. So I started doing trance, I don't know, probably about 8 years ago. I was sat in a trance circle, and a physical circle as well. And we managed to get some visitation, not a great deal in the physical, but they was starting to build, but unfortunately I had to move away, so I couldn't keep sitting in the group. And the trance stuff was really, really going really well. The issue with trances, or the problem with trances, is that it's very difficult to find a group or an environment that is truly conducive to the development of trance, when people really understand what we need to try and do to be able to, you know, manifest a quality connection, and working through ensuring that we get to the right levels of our altered state of consciousness to be able to deliver that message. And, you know, I would love to be part of a really strong trance circle. because I believe that would be fantastic for me and for the development of what I'm doing. I teach trance from my experiences, and I've been on, several courses on trance, and it's funny, and I don't know whether it's the same for you, but because of the time I devote to my spiritual meditation, to where I sit for half an hour and ask spirit questions, when I go to a course, a lot of the stuff that I'm hearing and seeing is ratification of the information I've been given from spirit. We must always remember they are the best teachers in the world to teach you. Our responsibility really is to ensure that we've got a fantastic connection and to be able to download the information, like a fiber optic broadband connection rather than the old 28K dial-up. And that's our responsibility. Our responsibility is to be able to really build that spiritual connection so we can connect in and download and ask questions and get philosophy and teachings, etc. So for me, I do a lot of that. So when I go to courses and they're saying, right, we should be doing this, we should be doing that, I generally have a little wry smile and go, yeah, you did say that, Ronnie. Yeah, you did say that, Mayon. You did say that, Arthur or Bert or whoever the guide is talking at the time. And I think that's important. And, I like to teach trance. And I think trance is, again, I've got to be careful the word I use here, but I think trance is simple, and we think we complicate it. Like a lot of mediumship, we complicate it. It's the ability to be able to go into that altered state of consciousness and to be able to stay in that position if you're dragged out by your mind or a noise or whatever the scenario is, and just have that. We talk a lot in development about trust, surrender, embodiment, and all of these things are really pertinent to trance and the teaching of trance. And I went to Arthur Findlay, and Martin was one of the teachers there I did a course with Martin on trance. And, as soon as we met each other, it was like, yeah, I know you. And you had Penny Hayward on the other day. Penny's another person who I just instantly, a beautiful lady, an amazing energy, a real, a stunning light that I know is going to do amazing work, as is Martin, for spirit and spirituality and spiritualism. But when I started to go on that course, Martin and I just hit it off straight away. And his beliefs, like we talk about here, Kathy, his beliefs and values were the same as mine. His teachings and his ideas were the same as mine. And we sat in the bar on many nights in Arthur Findlay, and we just talk and just chew the fat about what was going on. And I've been on Udemy now for just over 14 months, and it's been an amazing journey for me. That's a journey that really amplified the scalability of my teaching. I've got over nearly 7,000 students in 100 countries. And the courses have been translated into 28 different languages. Wow. It blows me off my chair. Awesome. Yeah, I'm truly humbled by it. And, the responses that we get is staggering. And there was I've got it on my computer here, but there was a gentleman 2 days ago that did a review of the Trance Mediumship course that Martin and I have done, and the actual writing of it, it was just it just blew me off my chair, because when you put a course together or you want to try and help somebody, you really don't get to understand the full effect it has and how it really truly does help people move forward. And there was a gentleman who talked about, I'm looking at it now, says excellent, groundbreaking and an inspirational course, but when you actually read the messages that came in from it, it's just like I could never truly imagine that we'd have this level of impact, because it's what we do. And the words were, this course was absolutely groundbreaking. It is a shift in trance teaching, And you know, it's just, I see, like it says, such a wonderful course, Julian. Seeing you and Martin work together with your spirit teams was inspirational and powerful. I think this course is a milestone. After it, I think the world has changed because spirit as an example of what can be done when two mediums cooperate and inspire thousands. Thank you. God bless you both. You know, you imagine, I got goosebumps now. You imagine reading that message going, wow, you know, that makes a true difference. And it comes back to the mantra of helping people help themselves. And that's what it's all about for me. So if I can team up with somebody like Martin, who is, for me, one of the best trance teachers in the world, and that's a bold statement. There's no disrespect to any of the trance teachers I've worked with previously, but he just is a special light. And a reason why I think Martin is a true special light is because of his mannerism, of his ethics, of his values, and how he sees the world. And he makes it very simple. You know, when you start a course, and somebody says, do you want to get up and demonstrate trance mediumship? Everybody says no. They're all weeping willows. They all hide at the back. But after being with Martin for 3 days, he's got a queue. People are queuing up to get on the stage because he gives them that belief, that inspiration, and that empowerment. And those are the things that I like to do as well. And, you know, as I said, Penny Hayward's very similar. And, you know, she's a very bright light. And it was great to see that you've had, you know, both of those people on your shows, because, you know, they are, I believe, some of the shining, value-driven, spiritual people that I've ever come across.
Oh no, I'm just grateful that I was able to interview all three of you. So this is awesome. And then, and the course, I actually had somebody reach out to me last night, and they're like, you know, I'm trying to click on the link. This is when I shared it last week. And, you know, it's not showing up for the introductory price. I was like, yeah, that's passed already. But I will tell you that that price of that course that's now, I want to say it's $49.99 right now.
Yeah, I think so.
One of those, well worth it, people, because when I watched it myself, and it gives you so many opportunities to actually sit, and then there's a demo as well. So, but the way they laid it out, it's like so simple, but you will have all these moments of like, wow, I mean, it was the perfect course. And so I will continue to share this for people that want to, yeah, the interviews are great. They're great. But I want to go to teachers. I want to do courses, and such an affordable course for the amount of information that you get and the opportunities to sit. So, you know, I'm going to push that course. So,
well, what I would say as well is that Udemy, obviously, Udemy see us as teachers, and they see Udemy as the school and the students as their students. Mm-hmm. So it's difficult for us sometimes to be able to offer the level of discount that we'd like to offer. But next week I will be, which is a week commencing the 16th, I'm going to be putting down another promotion so we can get it at, I think it's at £10 or $9.99. So if you want to hold off for a second, and I will, in the group, I will post a link to the trance course at that price for everybody to be able to link in and take the course. Because, you know, for me, it's interesting that Martin and I, we recorded this course in one take. Wow. And the reason why it was one take is because our energy and our connection was so strong. It was ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And we just laughed, and we just spoke, and we just talked, and we gave our beliefs, our philosophies, and our teaching in a way that was conducive to how we would have wanted to do it. And it really was, you know, one of the easiest courses I've ever put together, because of the level and depth of knowledge and information and you know, just pure spiritual love. That's the only way I can describe it. And, you know, even now it's the highest rated course on Udemy. We've had, I don't know, 100 and something people give a rating. It's still nearly 5 out of 5, which is hugely unusual, because, you know, you can never please all of the people all of the time. And it is a true blessing. And I'm so proud that I'm part of it, and proud to be working with such an amazing guy as Martin.
You know, it's awesome. I mean, I could feel the energy between you both. It was just like, I knew I had reached out to Martin like a year ago and trying to get an interview with him, but it came out perfect because I saw you guys' course and I was like, oh man, I got it. I went through it and I was like, oh man, okay, I got to reach out to Martin again. And then I was like, oh, but I also have to reach out to Julian too. And I got to interview both of them. And, but I loved it. I absolutely love your course. And I'm going to say that there are so many courses that you can do online, and they're charging like $200-$300. But your course, even if it's at $50, it is well worth it. I mean, you know, if you do those little promotions for $99 and you get it, that's great. But $50 for this course is like amazing. So again, thankful that you guys both did it. It's an amazing course.
No, it's a pleasure and it's an honor. And you know, you talk a lot about your calling in terms of these interviews and how they're expanding more into the, you know, spiritualism realm, not just, you know, the trance strand, if you like. And, you know, the ability to be able to work with someone like Martin on this subject and bring other aspects of it in, which I talk about quite a bit in terms of, you know, understanding the fundamental principles and cores that allow you to have a better form of connection is important. And I think a lot of people, you know, when they do a course or a trance course or whatever the scenario is, you know, they just want to get to the part where you close your eyes and breathe and you have somebody talk. Well, that's great. But again, the reality is there's so much work that needs to be cultivated if you truly want to, you know, be the spiritual light that, or the trance medium that you truly can be. And that's important.
Well, I love how you went on about sitting in meditation, sitting, getting to know you, sitting, getting to know the spirit world, sitting to know your team. And to me, it's going back to the basics, focusing on that, and not thinking about, like you just said, I'm going to start speaking, you know, get back to the basics. So I think that's important, along with getting to know you, healing the parts of you that need to be healed. And it will just open up for you, you know?
It does. And there's a gentleman who I see as one of my heroes and mentors in mediumship, and that's Gordon Higginson. And Gordon Higginson, in his book that I read, and it's not the exact terminology, but what he says is that the best teachers, the most meaningful teachers in the future, will have a sound knowledge and understanding of the importance of meditation. And I believe that is the case, that when you talk about mediumship in a circle, in whatever, nobody ever talks really about the need for quality meditation. And that quality meditation isn't, you know, a power meditation where you're just going to sit and, you know, step into the power. I'm going to do a reading. That's fine. But that's the last one. What about all the others? You know, and to cultivate and grow. And Martin will tell you the story, you know, when I don't know where he, you know, that he sat for 30 minutes a day for a whole year, and that's how he wrote his book, and that's how things happened, and that's how his trance mediumship really took off, and all of those things, because he cultivated and he gave spirit the time, the effort, the energy, you know, the dedication to be able to sit in those periods. And the great thing about it is that it'll also have a good impact on your physical life. You know, when my dad died, I was having huge problems with depression and anxiety. Mindfulness saved my life. John Kabat-Zinn, who is the editor of the Mindfulness Best Stress Reduction based in California, is saved my life without a shadow of a doubt. And he allowed me, you know, and it was weird because I was doing mediumship and I was, you know, doing very well at it, and the evidence was great. My dad died and it had this whole spiritual impact on it. And then I was shown mindfulness. And that mindfulness, when I started practicing and understanding it, when it came like that and coupled with the mediumship, bang, the whole game changed. And that was because I was connected with myself. I had a relationship and a connection with spirit. And the two together it was an extremely beautiful and powerful thing. And again, when I use the word power, I mean power with, not power on, as in religion. And you know, we work together, we help each other, and ultimately, you know, for us, we want to have a pleasant human experience, but ultimately we want to deliver on our soul's goal, our purpose. Why are we here? I believe that before we come here, we sign a contract with a spiritual council. We come to the earth. That's what we've got to deliver. The issue is, you're a baby, you grow up, you get, you know, humanized, and it's not until an experience happens or something happens, or, you know, whatever it is, your awakening starts to manifest, that you start to really understand why you're here. So for me, I'm here to help people to help themselves. I was shown by my guides that I have to build a spiritual college and wellness center. And hopefully I have done a deal on purchasing 9 acres of woodland in an area that I need to be able to build this college and center for people to come, and for children to come for mindfulness, for them to have outdoor curricula. It needs to be there for people with mental health issues, who have anxiety and depression and post-traumatic stress disorder. You don't need to be a soldier to have PTSD. You might have seen something that was, you know, horrendous, or had a trauma. I want that to happen. And then on the weekends or whatever else, I want to be able to have trance courses within a forest, within a woodland. Let's sit and use the energy of that's around us. And in the place where I want to do it, it's heavily linked to Glastonbury. I was told by my spirit guides I had to do it there. I didn't have a clue why. When I started finding out, it was the first seat of Christian learning, a spiritual college in the year 500 by a gentleman called Sid Ilted. And he's guided me back there to build the next one. And that is my legacy project. When I leave here and depart to go back upstairs or to the side or by there, or wherever we think heaven is, I have to build that center, because I want people to have the ability to have spirituality, to be connected with themselves and have a happy spiritual human life. And then I want them to have the ism, which is the spiritualism, which is the connection and relationship with spirit. And the two together, I think, will allow people to find their soul's goal and their purpose.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's beautiful. I mean, to have that mission that you know that's got to be done, you will do it, and it will come, and it will be beautiful. So, oh my God, I love talking with you, Julian, but I want to ask you one more question.
Go for it.
Two. If you could tell your younger self, give your younger self advice, what would it be?
Patience. Play the long game. I think the two big things that really affect spiritual development is, well, 3 things: expectation, ambition, and lack of patience. And I think if I could be more patient and trusting in spirit in those days, to understand that everything happens for a reason, good or bad. And if we can learn from those mistakes, then we never make a mistake. So for me as a young person, I would be saying, be patient. Be patient, do the right thing, and be patient. If we do the right thing, the results will take care of themselves. That's categorically, 100%.
Beautiful. And we have so many different audience members from different age groups. I mean, there could be like 70-year-olds coming on, but there could be also 18-year-olds or somebody younger, you know? So I always love to ask that question. The last question I will ask you is, for anybody interested in trance, coming for the first time, is there one piece of advice that you would give them as they're developing?
Yeah, I think trust. You know, we have to trust. We have to follow the spiritual string. That's what I say. And trust in it. Trust that when you're sitting there, that you trust in that spirit will hold you, that spirit will embody you, that spirit will work with you, and spirit over everything will always love you. And they will never put you in a situation that is not conducive to your development in a way, or harm, or it just doesn't exist. You know, Hollywood and, you know, all of these things kill our religion. The Exorcist and Ouija boards.
Oh, gosh, yes.
What a load of absolute twaddle. So if somebody was saying to me today, you know, just trust, go with your intuition and trust, be patient, trust, follow your intuition and surrender to spirit. It will only ever bring you love. And you know, for me, love is love underpins everything. And for a period of my life, I didn't understand what love was. And in many ways, this may sound a bit stupid, I suppose, but in the last 4 years, when I got a dog has taught me to really love. It's taught me unconditional love. I come through that door, no matter what day I've had, no matter what the situation is, that dog pounds down the stairs and wants to lick my face. And because he loves me and I love him. And it's that love for spirit, and it's that love for God, or whatever you want to call him. It doesn't have to be God, or love for Jesus Christ, or whatever it is. I'm not religious, I'm spiritual, but it is that love. So for me, somebody who's coming into trance, trust, surrender, embody, and know that you are in safe, beautiful hands. And that is the hands of spirit.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. I love how you said that. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Julian, for meeting with me today and sharing the beautiful work that you do. I do want to connect again with the information so members can connect with Julian. You can find him at julianjenkinsmedium.com. Lots of information there, courses, things that you offer. The LH community, which is the Light and Harmony community online, and that is again lhcommunity.net. You can find, and am I even pronouncing? I'm saying UDEMY. Is it UDEMY? I mean, you're saying it some way else.
Well, I think with all of these things, you say tomato, I say tomatoes, you say tomatoes, so it doesn't really matter. I think
if I change it, I'm going to mess up.
I say Udemy, and you may say Udemy, and somebody may say something else. Do you know what?
I say Udemy. Oh, I say Udemy. Oh my God. Okay.
Udemy, yeah. It doesn't really matter.
Either way, you guys know all the links are underneath, but the course is still being offered. Co-created with Martin Kolkoff. The definitive guide to Trance Psychic Mediumship. Beautiful, beautiful course. Definitely purchase this course. It will totally help you. And you can find all other courses of Udemy looking under Julian Jenkins.
Can I just say one final thing for me is that you know, when we give out our links, they're generally linked to some form of commercial activity. And what I'd like to say is that my email address is julian@lightandharmony.co.uk. Julian@lightandharmony.co.uk. It's JULIAN@lightandharmony.co.uk. If you just want to reach out and pass a comment or say hi or whatever, the one thing that I absolutely, whether I've got 6,000 students or 6 students, is I try as quickly as I can to answer every single review, every single question, every single message, every single post on a forum, because I believe that that's my role, that's my job. So if you want to send me an email and talk about your experiences in trance, if you want to ask a question, if you want to dive further into me or whatever the scenario is, it's entirely up to you. But that is a free service that you can just talk. And I think it's important to offer those, because I lost my friend on January the 1st. He committed suicide at the age of 39. And he had a cathedral full of people, 600 people at his funeral. And yet in his note to his family, he said he was lonely. How can somebody be lonely with 600 people at a funeral? So I'm always, it's good to talk. You can do whatever you want to do, reach out. There's a free email address there. I'm always, you may be lonely, but you're never alone. Yeah. And that is a key thing. So if you're feeling lonely, watching this, whatever it is, please just reach out and talk to me. Or if you just want to ask me my favorite color or my favorite pop song, I'm here for it. But I'm here.
I will definitely make sure to include that link, your email, with the links, the rest of the links. Julian, again, thank you so much for helping me help others. And I'm just so glad we got it. I think it was a great interview. I loved the information that came through. I definitely feel it was spirit inspired. And so again, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I wish you the best rest of your day.
Thank you very much, Kathy. And it really is a pleasure. And I truly believe that we need people like yourself who give up a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of energy to try and, you know, widen the spirituality and spiritualism that the world needs. And thank you for being you, and thank you for everything you do, because you are a very, very bright shining light, and please never stop being you, because you're wonderful.
Thank you very much. All right.
Thank you.